Decide which media outlets have pool access to President Trump and not the press corps. This is Press Secretary Caroline Leavitt read part of a judge's ruling allowing a ban on the Associated Press to stay in place, for now at least.
Asking the President of the United States questions in limited spaces, such as the Oval Office in Air Force One, is a privilege that unfortunately has only been granted to a few. It is not a legal right for all.
The White House Correspondents Association ripping that move, saying in part that it, quote, tears at the independence of a free press in the United States. It suggests the government will choose the journalists who cover the president. In a free country, leaders must not be able to choose their own press corps. I want to now bring in legendary journalist, author, and host of No Spin News on BillO'Reilly.com, Mr. Bill O'Reilly himself. Bill, welcome, welcome.
I like that legendary there, Markie. Who wrote that? Whoever wrote that, let me know.
Yeah, I'll let you know. I'll send them a name. Scott Friedman, right after this. Hey, Bill, mainstream media obviously vehemently opposed to this move, painting it as a deterioration of free speech, deterioration of freedom of the press. I mean, how do you see things? Good move, bad move?
I think only two reporters should be allowed into the White House, Kelly Myers and me. The rest of them, we don't need them, and they just clutter. There's a lot of clutter in the White House because of these press people. Look, there's no doubt over the past 10 years that the press corps in Washington has not been honest. And that's what this is all about. Yes, it's retribution or revenge, depending on your point of view, from the Trump administration. Give the corporate media a hard time, the Washington Post, the New York Times, the AP, because they have not done the job. Just a laptop, the Biden laptop situation that they suppressed, the Russian collusion thing. I mean, it's just crazy. So if I were Trump, I'd probably give them a hard time as well. It may not be the right thing to do, but if the press is not getting honest information to the people, which they aren't, generally speaking, then you've got to take some action.
I know Caroline Leavitt also said the changes would rotate those traditional outlets out, also include some streaming services as well. I mean, if it ends up being a true rotation, Bill, and we'll see how this new system ends up actually playing out and what it looks like, but could that be a good thing, to constantly be bringing in more platforms, different outlets all the time for the president?
Nah, it's a little chaotic. The problem with the social media people is there's no editor. They can do pretty much what they want to do. And so I'm not a big fan. I know they're trying to say, well, we'll bring in David because the Goliaths have been corrupt. I got it. But you've got to really understand who you're dealing with. And if you work for a social media outlet that has absolutely no editorial standards at all, what good does that do? We got a huge problem in this country with so-called journalism. Huge.
What about a couple weeks ago, Bill? I know Vice President J.D. Vance, he was just in Munich a couple Fridays ago, calling censorship, free speech restrictions, the threat from within, that it was a bigger threat than China or Russia, and that the United States would be the champion for letting everybody share their differences of opinion in the town square. Do you see this move contradicting those words at all?
No.
Or no?
No. And look, these pinheads in the White House press corps have been there since McKinley, all right? Their job is supposedly hard news. They're to report what the White House does. But what happened in, I would say, around the Iraq war invasion with Bush the Younger was the White House corps became political and reflected the ideology of the people who run their operations. USA Today is the best example. That newspaper, when it began, was a pretty good assessment of what happened. But it went so far left that you couldn't even work there unless you subscribed to that political point of view. And that happened pretty much across the board. And so now what you have is just a bunch of people in there trying to please their masters, their corporate masters, and not representing the folks.
Thanks for watching, everybody. Go to joinnn.com to find NewsNation on your television provider. Also, don't forget to click that red subscribe button below to get more of NewsNation's fact-driven, unbiased coverage.